In his sanctuary on the 25th floor of the imposing Copacabana building, in the pulsating heart of São Paulo's financial district, Rafael Mendes contemplated the metropolis spread out below. The cars, mere points of moving light, seemed like hurried ants, oblivious to the storm gathering in his life. In just 3 hours, he would face the meeting that would define his destiny. A meeting that would seal the future of Mendes Corporations, the empire he had built from scratch over 15 years of sweat and sacrifice. The verdict hinged on a single contract, a loan document that was his only proof of innocence against the fraudulent accusations his rivals had orchestrated. Without it, the investors would flee, and his legacy would crumble within weeks. Rafael, a 42-year-old man who had traded the altar for architectural blueprints and dedicated every atom of his existence to business, ran a hand through his already graying hair, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. The company was his life, his only child, and now, due to a lapse, the loss of that damned leather briefcase the week before, he was on the verge of losing absolutely everything. A knock on the door broke his reverie. It was Marcia, his faithful secretary for a decade. "Mr. Mendes, the lawyers have arrived. They wish to go over the strategy for the meeting one last time." "Let them in," Rafael ordered, his voice a mask of confidence he did not feel. 3 solemn figures entered the room, carrying stacks of papers that seemed to hold the weight of the world. Dr. Silveira, the most seasoned of the trio, delivered the sentence with a grim look. "Rafael, without the original documents, we are in an extremely vulnerable position. The copies we have will be contested by Eduardo Castillo and his allies, who will label them as forgeries. We need to prepare for the worst." "How much time do we have left?" Rafael inquired. "Exactly 2 hours and 50 minutes, another lawyer informed, checking his watch. Rafael moved towards the window, his gaze sweeping the urban landscape. It was then that, amidst the torrent of pedestrians, an image froze his blood. A little girl, no more than 8 or 9 years old, sitting on the sidewalk across the street, hugging a brown leather briefcase. His heart skipped a beat. The briefcase was an exact replica of the one he had lost. "Excuse me," he said abruptly, leaving the room without further explanation. The 25-floor descent in the elevator was an eternity of feverish anxiety. Upon reaching the ground floor, he shot out of the building. The girl was still there, barefoot, her clothes worn and dirty, clutching the briefcase as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Rafael approached cautiously, his voice a whisper so as not to startle her. "Hello? What's your name?" The girl lifted her face, revealing large brown eyes full of a liveliness that contrasted with her distrust. "Júlia," she replied in a low voice. "Júlia, this briefcase you have? Where did you find it?" The girl clutched the briefcase tighter. "Why the interest? Does it belong to you?" Rafael knelt, leveling his eyes with hers. "Yes, I believe so. I lost one exactly like it a week ago. Can you tell me where you found it?" Júlia scrutinized him, her young, wise eyes weighing his sincerity. "What do I get if I return it?" The question was direct, without hesitation. Rafael noticed the hunger in her eyes, the pallor that betrayed days without a decent meal. "What would you like?" "Food. And perhaps a safe place to spend the night. It's getting cold." A lump formed in Rafael's throat. Looking around, he saw the curious glances of passers-by. This was not the ideal place for this negotiation. "How about we make a deal? Let's go to a cafe, you get something to eat, and we can talk calmly." "How does that sound?" Júlia hesitated for a moment, then agreed with a slow nod. In the cafe next door, Rafael ordered a feast for her. A sandwich, fries, juice, and a pudding. Júlia devoured the food with an urgency that broke his heart, the urgency of someone unsure of their next meal. "Now, tell me," Rafael said gently, "where did you find the briefcase?" "In Republic Square, 3 days ago. It was under a bench, soaked from the rain. I thought someone had thrown it away." "And why didn't you turn it in to the police?" A bitter laugh escaped Júlia's lips. "The police aren't very fond of kids like me. They always assume we've stolen something." The truth in her words hit Rafael like a punch. Do you live on the streets? Sometimes. When I can't find shelter, the square or under a viaduct serves as a home. And your parents? Júlia stopped eating, her gaze lost in the distance. My mother passed away last year. My father, I never knew. Who takes care of you? I take care of myself. Rafael fell silent, absorbing the harsh reality of her life. A child no older than 9, surviving alone in the concrete jungles of São Paulo, and now she held the power to save or destroy his empire. Júlia, I need to ask you for something immense. This briefcase is indeed mine, and it contains invaluable documents, papers that are the only salvation for my company. What kind of company? I build buildings, houses. Thousands of families depend on the jobs I create. If I lose these documents, the company closes its doors, and all those people will lose their jobs. Júlia looked from the briefcase to him, pondering. And what's my reward? Rafael had no time to lose. Just over 2 hours remained until the meeting. Whatever you desire. Money, a house, school. School. Júlia's eyes shone with an intensity that surprised him. I've always dreamed of going to school, but I never had the chance. Then we have a deal. You give me the briefcase and I'll guarantee your enrollment in the best private school. I'll give you a home, food, everything you need. Júlia pondered for a moment that felt like an eternity. How can I be sure you'll keep your word? Adults are always lying to children. Her observation was a sharp dagger to Rafael's chest. He realized the world had already taught her to be wary. You're absolutely right. Many adults do lie, but I give you my word. And if you prefer, we can formalize everything with signed documents. Slowly, Júlia opened the briefcase, her eyes scanning the papers she couldn't read but whose importance she seemed to instinctively understand. Are these papers really that crucial? They are the most important of my life. Júlia closed the briefcase and slid it across the table toward him. Then you can take it, but you made a promise. With trembling hands, Rafael opened the briefcase. There they were, the original documents, a bit damp and creased but perfectly legible. The contract that proved his innocence was intact. A wave of relief so overwhelming washed over him that he barely held back tears. Júlia, you just saved my company. I will never forget this. And now what? Rafael checked his watch. 1 hour and 40 minutes left. Now, I'm going to honor my promise. But first I need to attend a crucial meeting. Can you wait for me in my office? There's a TV, a comfortable couch, and my secretary can bring you more food if you'd like. Júlia nodded, and for the first time, Rafael saw a genuine smile light up her face. Back in the office, he explained the situation to Marcia in a few words. I want you to take care of her like a queen. Give her anything she asks for. Let her watch TV. And, Marcia, from today on, Júlia is a part of our lives. Marcia looked from the girl, now sitting on the Italian leather sofa, to her boss, confusion written on her face. Mr. Mendes, what's happening? A lesson in humanity, Rafael replied. This girl saved me, and now it's my turn to save her. The meeting took place in the conference room on the 26th floor. Eduardo Castillo, his main rival, was present with his team of lawyers, as were representatives from the banks and investors. The tension was palpable. Well, Rafael, Eduardo began with a smirk. The moment of truth has arrived. Where are the original documents that prove you didn't overcharge for the business complex costs? With a calmness he didn't feel, Rafael opened his briefcase and pulled out the documents. They're right here. Eduardo's expression crumbled. He had bet everything on the certainty that Rafael would never find the originals. These documents have been missing for a week, one of the investors noted. They were, but they've been recovered, Rafael replied. And as you can see, they prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that all works were executed within the approved budget. There was no irregularity. The investor's accountant spent 40 minutes examining the papers. Finally, he looked up and confirmed. The documents are authentic and confirm there was no misappropriation of funds. Mr. Mendes, the accusation is baseless. Eduardo Castillo turned livid with rage. This is impossible. The documents were lost, but now they're found, Rafael said firmly. and our company will continue to operate normally. The meeting ended with the reaffirmation of Rafael's full control over Mendes and corporations. The investors' confidence was restored, and they even increased their capital for future projects. When Rafael returned to his office, he found Júlia asleep on the sofa, hugging a teddy bear that Marcia had bought for her. "How is she?" he asked in a low voice. "She ate 2 more sandwiches, a milkshake, and a slice of cake," Marcia replied. "Then she watched cartoons until she fell asleep. Poor thing, she must have been exhausted." Rafael settled into an armchair, watching her sleep. For the first time in his long and successful career, he understood that there was something far more valuable than money in business: human connection. "Marcia, tomorrow, I want you to research the best private schools in the city, and I need you to find a social worker to help me with the legal procedures." "Legal procedures? I'm going to adopt Júlia." Marcia stared at him, shocked. "Mr. Mendes, are you sure? It's a monumental decision." Rafael looked again at the sleeping girl. "She saved me, Marcia. Now it's my turn." When Júlia awoke, night was already falling over the city. Rafael was at his desk, but he stopped working when he saw her wake. "Did you sleep well?" Júlia stretched, seemingly remembering where she was. "Your meeting? Is it over?" "Yes, and it was a success, thanks to you. So your company is safe?" "It is, and now I'm going to keep my promise." Rafael sat beside her on the sofa. "Júlia, I want to make you a proposal, something even bigger than our agreement." The girl looked at him, curiosity shining in her eyes. "What kind of proposal?" "I want to adopt you. I want you to officially be my daughter. You would have a home, school, clothes, food, everything a child deserves. And most importantly, you would have a family." Júlia remained silent for a long moment, processing the offer. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." "Because today you did something that transformed my life. You didn't just return papers to me. You taught me that there are things far more important than business. And, to be honest, I think we were both lonely, and maybe we can find companionship in each other." "Do you live alone?" "Yes. I never married, never had children. I dedicated my entire life to work and only today discovered that it's not enough." Júlia looked out the immense office window, the city lights beginning to twinkle. "What if I don't know how to be a daughter? I've never had a real father. And I've never been a father. We can learn together." A smile, the second Rafael had seen on her face, appeared. "Then I accept, but on one condition. Which is, I want to help other children like me. Children who live on the streets with no one to care for them." A feeling of immense pride warmed Rafael's chest. "We can arrange that. How about we create a social project in the company dedicated to helping children in street situations?" "Really?" "Absolutely. It will be our first project together." Júlia threw herself into Rafael's arms, and he hugged her tightly. In that instant, the millionaire businessman and the street girl understood that they had found something they didn't even know they were looking for: a family. Júlia's initial days in Rafael's life were an avalanche of emotions and discoveries. He lodged her in a luxury hotel while speeding up the adoption papers. Júlia, who had never seen such a vast bed or a bathroom with a bathtub, touched the soft towels with reverence. "Can I really use all of this?" "You can, and you must. From now on, this is all yours by right." Rafael hired a social worker, Mrs. Carmen, who guided him through the bureaucratic labyrinth of adoption. As a child with no known relatives and living on the streets, the process would be quicker, but would still take months. In the meantime, Mrs. Carmen explained, "You can be Júlia's temporary guardian, but we'll need a suitable environment, school enrollment, and psychological support for her." "Whatever is necessary," Rafael assured. The first step was a new wardrobe. In the city's most sophisticated mall, Rafael quickly realized his complete inexperience in buying clothes for a 9-year-old girl. "What do you like?" he asked, lost. Júlia, wide-eyed, just replied, "I don't know. On the street, you wear what you find." A helpful saleswoman approached. "Father and daughter?" she asked with a smile. "Yes, we are," Rafael answered without hesitation. "And we need a complete wardrobe for her." 2 hours later, they left with a mountain of bags. Júlia, now in a blue dress and shiny white sneakers, looked at her reflection. "I feel different." "How so?" "Like I'm worth something." The sentence hit him hard. He knelt down. "Júlia, you have always been priceless. The clothes don't change who you are. They just show on the outside the special person you've always been on the inside." The next step was school. After visiting 3 elite institutions, Rafael found the welcoming atmosphere he was looking for at Santa Isabel School. The principal, Professor Helena, was emphatic. "Mr. Mendes, our priority is to make Júlia feel welcome. The academic support is the least of it." Rafael also hired a private tutor, Marina, a literacy specialist, who soon noted, "Júlia is incredibly intelligent. Survival on the streets requires a practical intelligence that we now just need to channel into formal learning." The third step was a new home. Rafael's bachelor pad was no place for a child. He bought a spacious house in Vila Madalena with a yard and plenty of rooms. "Why such a big house?" Júlia asked. "For you to have space to grow and to bring your school friends over." "Can I really bring friends over?" "Of course, this is your home." In those first weeks, they really began to get to know each other. Rafael discovered Júlia's incredible observation skills. "On the street, you learn to observe everything," she explained. "If you don't pay attention, you can get into trouble." Júlia, in turn, discovered that Rafael often forgot to eat. "You can't skip meals," she chided him one day. "My mom used to say the body is a machine. Without fuel, it stops." Rafael smiled. "Your mother was a wise woman. How about a pizza?" The evenings became sacred. Rafael read to her before bed and Júlia absorbed every word. "Why does the princess always need to be saved by the prince?" she questioned. "Can't she save herself?" "Yes, she can. Besides, you saved me, didn't you?" "That's true, so I'm a princess." "You are my princess." A month after the meeting that changed everything, Rafael received a call that sent a chill down his spine. It was Eduardo Castillo. "Rafael, we need to talk about the girl. I know where she came from, and I think you should know a few things about her past." What could Eduardo know? The next day, in his rival's office, the bomb was dropped. "I hired a detective to investigate you," Eduardo admitted, and he discovered something interesting. Júlia is no ordinary street girl. She's the daughter of Marina Santos, a former employee of yours. Rafael felt the ground give way. Marina Santos, the administrative assistant fired for cause, accused of selling confidential information to the competition. "Continue," Rafael said, his voice tense. "Marina died in a car accident a year ago. Júlia was left with no relatives, went to a shelter, but ran away and ended up on the streets." Eduardo leaned in, revealing his true intentions. "I'm telling you this because I want to make a deal. I have information that could ruin Júlia's reputation, and consequently, yours." Imagine the headline: "Businessman adopts the daughter of the corrupt employee he himself fired." What do you want? "Sell me 40% of your company for half its market value." In return, this story will never see the light of day. Rafael stood up, fury burning in his veins. "You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a deal. Think about it. A reputation you took 15 years to build, destroyed because of a girl you met a month ago." He left without answering, his mind in a whirlwind. When he got home, he found Júlia doing her homework. "Hi, Daddy," she said, running to hug him. The word daddy hit him with force. Someone depended on him. Later, he sat with her. "Júlia, I need to ask you about your mother. Her full name?" "Marina Santos." "Why?" "Where did she work?" "In a big company that built buildings. She said her boss fired her for something she didn't do, that she was wrongly blamed." "Do you believe her?" "Of course. My mom never lied." Rafael looked into the girl's honest eyes and made his decision. "Júlia, what happened at your mother's job doesn't change anything between us." "Why are you asking this?" He hesitated, but he knew she was strong. "Because some malicious people might try to use her past to hurt us." "Are you going to give up on me?" Her question was a punch to his gut. "Never. I will never give up on you, no matter what happens. You saved me when I was about to lose everything. Now it's my turn to protect you." Júlia smiled and went back to her drawing. "Then it's okay. We're both strong, aren't we?" That night, Rafael called his lawyer and explained the blackmail. Legally, Eduardo can't do anything, Dr. Silveira assured him. But the reputation. Let me prepare a communication strategy. If this story leaks, we'll be ready. The next day, Rafael called Eduardo. Your proposal is rejected. You're making a mistake. No, Eduardo. The mistake would be to give in to your blackmail. Júlia is my daughter, and nothing will change that. He hung up, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. A week later, the story broke in the media, but the result was the opposite of what Eduardo had expected. The headline, "Businessman Rafael Mendes adopts former employee's daughter in a gesture of humanity." The article told the story of how a street girl had saved a businessman, and how he, upon discovering her identity, decided to adopt her anyway. The story generated a wave of sympathy. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, NGOs, and even other businessmen calling to congratulate him. The most important call came from the Sylvester Group, one of the country's largest conglomerates. "Mr. Mendes, we read the story. We were impressed by your attitude and would like to propose a partnership for social responsibility projects." Rafael could hardly believe it. The next day, he and Júlia went to the meeting. Dr. Paulo Henrique, the group's CEO, received them warmly. "So you're the famous Júlia. I heard you saved your father's company." Júlia replied with simplicity, "I just returned a briefcase I found." "No, Júlia, you chose to do the right thing." The Sylvester Group proposed investing millions in a program to assist children in street situations. "And Júlia will be our ambassador," an executive added. Júlia, listening intently, asked to speak. "I accept, but on one condition. I want other children to have the same chance I had. Not just a house and food, but a real family." The adults in the room were silent. "We'll include a facilitated adoption program in the project," Dr. Paulo decided, inspired by the girl's maturity. 3 months later, the Júlia project was launched. In her speech, Júlia, now literate and 10 years old, moved everyone. "6 months ago, I was sleeping on the street. Today, I have a father who loves me and the chance to help other children. My father says I saved him, but the truth is, we saved each other. He gave me a family, and I gave him a daughter." The project was a resounding success. Rafael discovered that fatherhood was his greatest achievement. Júlia, intelligent and full of life, became his little advisor. "Daddy, why don't you build cheaper buildings for people with less money?" she suggested one day. The idea gave birth to a new division in the company, focused on affordable housing, which became a success. 2 years after their first meeting at Júlia's 12th birthday party, Rafael watched the house full of laughter. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," he told Dr. Carmen. "I now know that success isn't having a prosperous company. Success is seeing your daughter happy." Júlia ran to him with a photo album. "Look, Daddy, this was on the day you officially adopted me." "The happiest day of my life," said Rafael. "Mine too," she replied. "It was the day I stopped being an orphan, and you stopped being alone." 5 years after that fateful meeting, Rafael was again on the 25th floor, this time with Júlia, now 14. "This is where it all began," he said. "And down there is where I was with your briefcase," she replied. Rafael's phone rang. It was a reporter. "Mr. Mendes, what's the secret to the Júlia project's success?" Rafael looked at his daughter. "The secret was understanding that when you help one person, you change your own life. Júlia didn't just return a briefcase to me. She returned the humanity I had lost." Later, in the same cafe where they first met, Júlia said, "You kept every promise, and so much more." Rafael smiled. "Actually, I'm the one who gained the most. You gave me a reason to be a better person." "Daddy," Júlia said, hugging him, "thank you for not giving up on me. Never. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You are to me too." In that moment, they understood that their story had no end. It was built day by day, forming something much bigger than a company or a social project. They were building a family. 10 years later, Rafael sat in the front row, watching Júlia, at 24, receive her architecture degree from USP. The girl from the sidewalk was now a brilliant professional. In her speech, she dedicated the achievement to her father. 15 years ago, a lost briefcase changed 2 lives. Today, thousands of families have a home because of that meeting. Daddy, thank you for teaching me that success is measured by what you build for others. At the graduation party, Júlia made a proposal. How about Mendes and Corporations becomes Mendes and Daughters Social Architecture? I want to be your partner. Accepted, Rafael said without hesitation. Officially partners and family. Forever. Looking at the sky, Rafael thought about how a simple lost briefcase had triggered a miracle. But sometimes miracles don't fall from the sky. Sometimes they come in the form of a brave girl who chooses to do the right thing. And sometimes in saving someone, you discover that you were the one who was truly saved.